What you're about to hear is going to make your blood boil, and honestly, I don't care if you believe me right now because by the end of this video, you're going to realize that everything you thought you knew about loyalty in professional wrestling was a complete and utter lie. Paul Heyman, the so-called wise man, the advocate, the special counsel to Roman Reigns, the man who stood beside the tribal chief through every single battle, every war, every moment of triumph, has done the unthinkable. He's turned his back on the bloodline, spit in the face of Roman Reigns, and joined forces with the one man who represents everything the tribal chief has fought against. That's right, Paul Heyman has betrayed the vision and aligned himself with CM Punk, and if you're sitting there thinking this is just another wrestling storyline, you're missing the entire point of what just happened. This isn't about storylines anymore. This is about the complete destruction of trust, the obliteration of everything we've watched build over the past few years, and the absolute disrespect shown to the man who made Paul Heyman relevant again in this era. I want you to understand something right now before we go any further into this. When Roman Reigns took Paul Heyman under his wing, when he allowed Heyman to be his advocate, his counsel, his voice, Roman didn't just give Heyman a job. He gave him purpose. He gave him relevance in a time when everyone had forgotten about Paul Heyman's glory days with Brock Lesnar. Roman Reigns elevated Paul Heyman to heights he hadn't seen in years, and this is how Heyman repays him? By running to CM Punk, a man who walked out on this business, who turned his back on the fans, who thinks he's bigger than the industry itself. Let me tell you something that's going to make this even worse. Paul Heyman isn't just some manager who switched clients. He was family. He was part of the bloodline, not by blood, but by choice, by loyalty, by the bond that was supposed to be unbreakable. When GUSO had doubts, when Jimmy USO struggled with his position, when Solo Sikoa stepped up to prove himself, Paul Heyman was there, whispering in Roman's ear, strategizing, planning, ensuring that the tribal chief remained on top of the mountain. And now, after all those years, after all those victories, after all those moments where Roman trusted him completely, Heyman walks away and joins the enemy. Not just any enemy, but CM Punk, the man who represents everything opposite to what the bloodline stands for. Think about what CM Punk represents in this industry. He's the voice of the voiceless, right? That's what his supporters will tell you. He's the rebel, the anti-establishment figure who speaks truth to power. But let's be real about what CM Punk actually is. He's a narcissist who couldn't handle not being the center of attention. He walked out when things didn't go his way. He badmouthed the company that made him a star. He returned when it was convenient for him, when he could make the most money, when he could stroke his own ego by having fans chant his name again. And now, Paul Heyman, the man who helped build Roman Reigns into the most dominant champion in WWE history, has decided that CM Punk is the better option? Are you kidding me right now? The level of disrespect is astronomical, and what makes this betrayal even more painful is that we all should have seen it coming, but we were too blind, too invested in the story to recognize the signs. Paul Heyman has always been a snake. Let's not pretend otherwise. This is the same man who turned on Brock Lesnar, the same man who has switched allegiances more times than we can count throughout his career. He was with ECW until it died, then he jumped to WWE, then to Brock, then to Roman, and now to Punk. The pattern is clear. Paul Heyman is loyal to one person and one person only, and that's Paul Heyman. He doesn't care about legacy, he doesn't care about family, he doesn't care about the vision that Roman Reigns has been building. All Paul Heyman cares about is being associated with whoever he thinks is going to be on top, whoever is going to keep his name relevant, whoever is going to give him the spotlight he so desperately craves. And right now, in his mind, that person is CM Punk. But here's where Heyman has made a catastrophic mistake. CM Punk might be talented, he might be able to cut a promo, he might have a loyal fanbase, but he doesn't have what Roman Reigns has. Roman has respect. Roman has the entire locker room behind him, whether they admit it publicly or not. Roman has proven time and time again that he's the top guy, the face of the company, the man who carries this industry on his back. CM Punk has proven that he'll run away when things get tough, that he'll throw tantrums backstage, that he'll cause drama and chaos wherever he goes. And Paul Heyman thinks that's the winning horse to bet on? That's absolutely insane, and it shows just how far Heyman has fallen, how desperate he's become to stay relevant at any cost. The thing that really gets under my skin about this whole situation is the timing of it all. This didn't happen during some random period. This happened when Roman Reigns needed Paul Heyman the most. The bloodline is facing challenges from every direction. Cody Rhodes is breathing down Roman's neck, wanting to finish his story. The locker room is full of hungry competitors who see an opportunity to take down the tribal chief. This is when family is supposed to stick together, when loyalty is supposed to mean something, when the bonds that were formed through years of battle are supposed to hold strong. Instead, Paul Heyman chose this moment to stab Roman Reigns in the back and align himself with CM Punk. The cowardice of that decision is unbelievable. Let's talk about what Paul Heyman brought to CM Punk's table and why this partnership even makes sense from Heyman's twisted perspective. CM Punk needs legitimacy. Despite all his talk about being the best in the world, despite his cult following, CM Punk has always been seen as an outsider, someone who doesn't quite fit the mold of what WWE wants their top star to be. He's always been fighting against the machine, and while that makes for good television and compelling storylines, it also means he's never had that establishment backing that truly elevates someone to legendary status. Enter Paul Heyman, a man who has been in this industry for decades, who has the respect of veterans and the ear of decision-makers, who can provide CM Punk with the credibility and the strategic mind that Punk has always lacked. Heyman sees Punk as his ticket to remaining relevant in an industry that's constantly evolving, constantly bringing in new talent, constantly pushing older figures to the side. By aligning with CM Punk, Heyman positions himself as the mastermind behind another potential megastar, the advocate for someone who could theoretically dethrone Roman Reigns and change the entire landscape of professional wrestling. From Heyman's selfish perspective, this move makes perfect sense. But from a moral standpoint, from a loyalty standpoint, from a human decency standpoint, this is one of the most disgusting betrayals in wrestling history. What I want you to consider is the ripple effect this betrayal is going to have throughout the entire wrestling world. The bloodline isn't just Roman Reigns. It's GUSO, Jimmy USO, Solo Sikoa, and everyone who has pledged their allegiance to the tribal chief and his vision for dominance. Paul Heyman wasn't just Roman's advocate, he was a trusted advisor to the entire family unit. He helped make strategic decisions about matches, about alliances, about how to handle threats. And now all of that insider knowledge, all of those strategies, all of those secrets are in the hands of CM Punk and whoever else Punk decides to align himself with. This isn't just a personal betrayal, this is a strategic nightmare for Roman Reigns and the bloodline. Heyman knows their weaknesses, he knows how they think, he knows what motivates them and what scares them. He has years of psychological profiles built up in his head about every member of that family, and now he's going to use that information to help CM Punk tear them down. The advantage this gives CM Punk cannot be overstated. It's like having the enemy's playbook, their game plan, their entire strategy laid out in front of you before the battle even begins. The emotional toll this is going to take on Roman Reigns is something we need to discuss because this isn't just business for Roman. When you watch Roman Reigns talk about the bloodline, when you see the passion in his eyes when he discusses family and legacy and vision, you understand that this runs deeper than just winning championships and main eventing WrestleMania. Roman has built his entire identity around being the tribal chief, around being the head of the table, around creating something that will last long after he's done performing. Paul Heyman was supposed to be a crucial part of that legacy. He was supposed to be the one constant, the one person Roman could always count on to have his back no matter what. And now that foundation has crumbled. How does Roman trust anyone ever again after this? How does he look at anyone in his corner and believe they're truly loyal when the one person who was supposed to be unquestionably loyal has turned his back? This betrayal is going to create paranoia, it's going to create doubt, it's going to create fractures within the bloodline that might never fully heal. And that's exactly what CM Punk wants. That's exactly what Paul Heyman is helping him achieve. I need to address something that a lot of people are going to bring up in the comments, and that's the idea that this is all just a work, that it's just storytelling, that we shouldn't get so emotionally invested in what's happening because it's not real. And to those people, I say you're missing the entire point of what makes professional wrestling special. Yes, the outcomes are predetermined. Yes, the storylines are scripted, but the emotions are real. The investment we have in these characters is real. The feeling of betrayal when someone we've supported turns their back on everything we believed in is real. That's what makes wrestling different from any other form of entertainment. We're not just passive observers watching actors perform lines. We're emotionally invested participants who have spent years, sometimes decades, following these stories, supporting these characters, believing in these visions. So when Paul Heyman betrays Roman Reigns and joins CM Punk, it's not just a storyline development that we acknowledge and move on from. It's a gut punch that makes us question everything we thought we knew about loyalty and trust in this industry. CM Punk must be sitting backstage with the biggest smirk on his face right now, knowing that he's managed to pull off one of the biggest coups in recent wrestling history. He didn't just gain an advocate or a manager, he gained the one person who knows Roman Reigns better than anyone else in this industry. He gained psychological warfare capabilities that he never had before. CM Punk has always been good on the microphone, always been able to cut a promo that gets under people's skin, but now he has Paul Heyman, the greatest talker in wrestling history, in his corner feeding him information, helping him craft the perfect verbal assaults, giving him the ammunition he needs to destroy Roman Reigns not just physically but mentally and emotionally. This partnership between CM Punk and Paul Heyman is dangerous in ways that go far beyond what happens in the ring. They're going to get inside Roman's head, they're going to exploit every weakness, they're going to use every piece of insider knowledge Heyman has accumulated over the years to systematically dismantle everything Roman has built. And the worst part is that Roman trusted Paul Heyman enough to let him see those vulnerabilities, never imagining that Heyman would one day use them against him. The historical context of Paul Heyman's career makes this betrayal even more significant. This is a man who has been involved in some of the most important moments in wrestling history. He was the creative genius behind ECW, the promotion that revolutionized hardcore wrestling and gave a voice to wrestlers who didn't fit the traditional mold. He was the advocate for Brock Lesnar during some of Lesnar's most dominant runs, helping to position Brock as an unstoppable monster who could destroy anyone in his path. And most recently, he's been the special counsel to Roman Reigns, helping the Tribal Chief become the longest-reigning Universal Champion in history and the most dominant force WWE has seen in years. Paul Heyman's legacy is built on these associations, on being the voice behind the muscle, the brains behind the brawn. But every time, eventually, Heyman's true nature reveals itself. He turns, he betrays, he moves on to the next opportunity. And now we're witnessing it happen again, except this time it feels different because of how much Roman Reigns invested in that relationship, how much he trusted Heyman, how integral Heyman was to the Bloodline's success. What I find absolutely infuriating is how calculated this betrayal was. Paul Heyman didn't wake up one day and impulsively decide to join CM Punk. This was planned, strategized, thought out over weeks or maybe even months. Heyman was standing beside Roman Reigns, looking him in the eye, telling him he was loyal, telling him he believed in the vision, all while secretly plotting his exit strategy and his alliance with CM Punk. That level of deception is sickening. It means that every moment we watched over the past few months where Paul Heyman was advising Roman, every speech he gave about the Bloodline, every strategy session we assumed was genuine, was all a lie. Heyman was already mentally checked out, already planning his next move, already thinking about how he could position himself with CM Punk while pretending to still be loyal to Roman. The duplicity is staggering, and it makes you wonder how anyone in the wrestling industry can ever truly trust Paul Heyman again. Sure, CM Punk might think he's got the perfect advocate now, but what happens when a bigger opportunity comes along? What happens when someone else offers Heyman a better deal or a brighter spotlight? History has shown us exactly what happens. Heyman will turn on CM Punk just like he turned on everyone else, because that's who Paul Heyman is at his core. He's a survivor, a mercenary, someone who will always put his own interests above loyalty or honor. The fans are going to be divided on this, and that division is going to create some of the most intense debates we've seen in wrestling in years. On one side, you're going to have the Roman Reigns supporters, the people who have stood by the Tribal Chief through his entire run, who understand the significance of what the Bloodline represents, who see Paul Heyman's betrayal for exactly what it is, a cowardly, calculated move by a man with no real loyalty to anyone. These fans are going to be angry, they're going to be vocal, they're going to make their opinions known every time CM Punk and Paul Heyman appear on television. On the other side, you're going to have the CM Punk supporters, the people who have been waiting for Punk to get back on top, who see this as the ultimate power move, who believe that Punk adding Paul Heyman to his arsenal makes him unstoppable. These fans are going to celebrate this union, they're going to chant Punk's name even louder, they're going to see this as validation that their guy is the best in the world. And in the middle, you're going to have casual fans who might not fully understand the history and significance of this betrayal but are going to be drawn into the storyline by the sheer intensity and emotion of it all. This is wrestling at its finest, creating genuine emotional reactions, forcing people to pick sides, generating the kind of heat that makes people tune in every single week to see what happens next. Let me paint a picture of what the future looks like now that Paul Heyman has joined forces with CM Punk. Roman Reigns is going to be out for blood. This isn't going to be a simple rivalry that gets resolved with one match. This is personal in a way that transcends normal wrestling feuds. Roman is going to want to destroy both CM Punk and Paul Heyman, to make them pay for this betrayal in the most brutal way possible. We're going to see a side of Roman Reigns we haven't seen before, a more vicious, more unhinged version of the Tribal Chief who feels like he has nothing left to lose. The Bloodline is going to rally around Roman, not just because they're family, but because they understand that this betrayal affects all of them. If Paul Heyman could turn on Roman, the head of the table, then what does that say about the stability of the entire organization? The Usos and Solo Sikoa are going to be just as motivated to take down CM Punk and Heyman as Roman is. Meanwhile, CM Punk is going to be more confident than ever, feeling like he finally has the tools and the support system he needs to accomplish his goal of becoming the face of WWE again. Paul Heyman is going to be in his element, talking trash about Roman, revealing secrets about the Bloodline, using his insider knowledge to give CM Punk every possible advantage. The promos are going to be absolutely scorching. The matches are going to be intense and personal. This storyline has the potential to be one of the greatest in wrestling history, but it comes at the cost of destroying one of the most important relationships in recent wrestling memory. There's also the question of what this means for Paul Heyman's legacy in the long term. Is he going to be remembered as one of the greatest minds in wrestling history, or is he going to be remembered as the ultimate traitor, the man who could never stay loyal to anyone? Right now, his resume is incredible. ECW, Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, these are Hall of Fame level achievements. But with each betrayal, with each turn, with each time he abandoned someone who trusted him, that legacy gets a little more tarnished. There's a difference between being a good heel and being genuinely unlikable as a human being, and Paul Heyman is starting to cross that line. Wrestling fans appreciate great storytelling and compelling characters, but there's a limit to how many times someone can betray people's trust before it stops being entertaining and starts being exhausting. We're reaching that point with Paul Heyman. Yes, him joining CM Punk creates an interesting dynamic and sets up potentially great storylines, but it also reinforces the idea that Heyman has no real principles, no real loyalties, no real honor. He's just a manipulator who uses people for as long as they're useful to him and then discards them when something better comes along. That's not the kind of legacy that ages well. I want to circle back to something I mentioned earlier because it's crucial to understanding the full scope of this betrayal. Roman Reigns didn't just give Paul Heyman a job, he gave him a purpose and a family. After Brock Lesnar, Paul Heyman could have faded into obscurity. He could have become a nostalgia act, someone who occasionally showed up for special appearances to pop the crowd with old catchphrases and memories of better days. Instead, Roman brought him in, made him integral to the biggest storyline in wrestling, gave him creative freedom to be brilliant on the microphone, and treated him with respect and trust. Roman let Paul Heyman into the inner circle of the bloodline, let him be part of family discussions and decisions, valued his opinion and his counsel. That's not something you do for just anyone. That's something you do for someone you truly trust, someone you consider family. And Paul Heyman has thrown all of that away to join CM Punk, a man he has no history with, a man who could turn on him just as easily as Heyman has turned on others. The short-sightedness of this decision is mind-boggling. What does Paul Heyman think is going to happen? Does he really believe CM Punk is going to be loyal to him forever? Does he think this partnership is going to last longer than any of his previous ones? Or is he just living in the moment, chasing the next adrenaline rush of being part of something new and exciting, without thinking about the long-term consequences? The wrestling community is going to analyze this betrayal from every possible angle. People are going to create video essays, write articles, record podcasts, all dedicated to breaking down why this happened, what it means, and where the story goes from here. Social media is going to explode with opinions, hot takes, arguments, and debates. That's the power of professional wrestling when it's done right. This isn't just entertainment that you watch and forget about. This is entertainment that makes you think, that makes you feel, that makes you want to talk about it with other fans and share your perspective. Paul Heyman joining CM Punk and betraying Roman Reigns is the kind of moment that defines eras in wrestling. Years from now, people are going to look back at this moment as a turning point, as the thing that changed the trajectory of multiple careers and storylines. Whether that change is for better or worse remains to be seen, but the significance of it cannot be denied. As I wrap this up, I want you to really sit with the emotional weight of what's happened here. Imagine investing years of your life into building something great, into creating a family unit that achieves unprecedented success, into trusting someone completely only to have them turn their back on you at the moment you need them most. That's what Roman Reigns is experiencing right now. That's the story we're watching unfold. And on the flip side, imagine being so consumed by your own ambition, by your own desire for relevance and success, that you're willing to destroy relationships and burn bridges without a second thought. That's Paul Heyman's story. These are real human emotions and experiences, even if they're being played out in the context of professional wrestling. This is why we love this industry, why we invest our time and energy into following these stories, why we get so passionate about what happens inside and outside the ring. Paul Heyman betraying the Vision and joining Team CM Punk isn't just a headline or a plot twist. It's a deeply personal story about trust, betrayal, ambition, and the cost of putting yourself above everyone else. And regardless of how this story ultimately ends, the impact of this moment is going to reverberate through the wrestling world for years to come. So share this video, comment your thoughts below, let me know if you think Paul Heyman made the right decision or if this is the biggest mistake of his career. And most importantly, acknowledge that what we just witnessed is wrestling history being made right before our eyes.